All right, welcome to week 10. This week we're dealing with chapter 8, which addresses the role of interest groups. James Madison observed in Federalist 10 that faction is to democracy as air is to fire. Okay, faction was the word that the framers used to refer to interest group. Now, what he meant by that statement is this: interest group formation is an inevitable feature of democracy, since giving people the freedom of association naturally leads people to band together to pursue their mutual interests. So factions are dangerous like fire. Madison believed that one proposed cure for the mischief that interest groups could work, to use the power of the state to prohibit their formation, was a cure worse than the disease. But Madison believed that, like fire, if the worst aspects of interest group formation could be controlled, then, like fire, interest groups could be beneficial to society. Think about the steps that a government would have to take in order to enforce a ban on interest groups. You'd need a really large security force specialized in identifying and investigating and prosecuting everyone that engaged in the conspiracy of banding together with like-minded individuals to influence the political process. Unless you plan to allow such behavior as it relates to economic activity, you basically have to ban corporations. That might be a pleasant thought for some of the more socialist-minded folks, but that sort of ban would be the very essence of tyranny. Madison's solution was a large federated republic which would disperse interest groups' influence and prevent them from exerting too great a control over our government. If interest groups were forced to balance competing claims, then the government would have incentives to act like an honest broker. We can call this Madison's cage. Part of the genius of our constitutional system is the extent to which it creates a balance of power among powerful and influential interest groups and assumes that such a rough equilibrium would need to be sustained in order for democracy to be preserved. A big part of this chapter deals with two important aspects of interest group politics: the different kinds of interest groups that form and the tactics they employ to influence the political process. In terms of different types of interest groups out there, one of the more interesting developments of the 20th century was the emergence of public sector interest groups, where you have national associations of governors, mayors, and city managers. Why have these sorts of groups formed? I suspect that the answer is that policies enacted at the national level influence how governors, mayors, and city managers do their jobs. In some instances, it can be the difference between public officials being able to do their jobs or not. So people at the state and local levels of government are very interested in the kinds of public policies that are enacted at the federal level. One of the legitimate concerns about the rising power of interest groups is that some of these groups appear to be coalescing in ways that the framers may not have anticipated, and that they are cooperating through the use of both television and social media to dominate political institutions in potentially destabilizing ways. To put it another way, interest groups' pursuit of influence may have broken out of Madison's cage, and they're threatening to undermine important support for democratic processes and rule of law. And that is certainly something that we can discuss in the forum. So this week we have the forum and Chapter 8 quiz, and then we have the second unit exam, which covers the material from chapters 4 to 8. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call, email, or drop by my office. Remember, if there's anything that confuses you or that you simply don't understand, please consider asking a question in the weekly forum. That's a good place for cleaning things up, and I always try to read the forum posts when I can. Let's have a great week.